All right. So thank you so much for inviting me over for this talk. I'm really excited to be presenting today about the Meshery adapter for HashiCorp. So a very quick introduction about myself. I'm Shivay, Lamba, a contributor and former meshmate at Layer 5. If you're not aware about Layer 5, Layer 5 is the service mesh community, and it has a lot of different projects that are currently incubated under the CNCF, and it also takes part in a lot of different open source programs such as Google Summer of Code, the Linux Foundation mentorship under the CNCF landscape, and of course, so I'm really excited today to be presenting the Meshery adapter for HashiCorp. Now, just to give a brief context into, first of all, what exactly are service meshes. Of course, we know that we have sort of transitioned over from monolith architecture applications to microservices based applications. And while microservices applications help greatly limit the limitations of the monolith applications, they do tend to have their own set of problems as well. Mainly from the perspective of the discoverability, configuration, and also the security. And that is where the service meshes come into the foray. Service meshes provide these three operations that help to manage and then identify various service meshes as various microservices as they communicate with each other and also in a secure fashion. So essentially, each service mesh has two major components. So the first one is the data plane. You can think of the data plane as that plane where all the different communication between different services takes place, and you're talking mostly about all the communication that's like the traffic that goes on between two services, and that all of that is managed at the data plane. And that also then ensures that we have proper traffic control. We are regularly checking the health of our network, and of course, whether it's like related to load balancing, all of that is managed with the help of the data plane. Now, coming to the control plane, that's where essentially the entire configuration about how these services are going to be interacting with each other, that's where is going to be maintained in the control plane. So a service mesh essentially allows you to control both the data plane and the control plane. And where the Meshery actually comes into the picture is that we provide a layer on top of the data plane and the control plane. And that's what we have as the management plane that helps to sort of understand the network capabilities, the traffic management of any service mesh. So just to understand this from a bigger perspective, you can think of the management plane as that wrapper around the service mesh, which allows us to do various things such as being able to do things such as lifecycle management of these service meshes, to understand the traffic management, to see how the traffic load on any service mesh might be. And we also provide a lot of other things such as chaos management, and we continuously optimize these service meshes. So by providing also a lot of intelligence inbuilt into the system, and that sort of sort of describes the entire infrastructure regarding Meshery. So Meshery as this the service mesh management plane software allows us to be able to do all of that by providing a certain set of UI features, then integrations that help manage your service meshes. And of course, we'll be coming back to this infrastructure and talking about the architecture about Meshery and how it's supposed to work in just a bit. But of course, there are a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes when it actually comes to talking about Meshery, and also how it actually helps to manage these service meshes. Now, some of the major features that we have with respect to Meshery, and of course, as we mentioned, that it actually supports multiple service meshes. So we are talking about some of the most popular service meshes, including Consul, Istio, Linkerd, right? Open Service Mesh by Microsoft, and all of these service meshes come with support for things like such as lifecycle management, being able to measure the performance by let's say giving it a load test, right? And you're able to also look at service mesh patterns and see how your expected outcome from basically your applications that you're running on the service meshes, how they are going to be there. We also have support for WebAssembly based filters as well under the Meshery software. Now, of course, at the same time, it comes with inbuilt, best practices for configuration. So over here, as you can see, there's an example where we are trying to configure a console-based service mesh. So it will provide you details about the best configuration that are possible with respect to if you want to go ahead and deploy some if you want to go ahead and deploy your console server. So it will provide you the best possible configuration practices. And now sort of talking more in depth about the Meshery ecosystem. So essentially, we have spoken so far about Meshery, but there are a lot of other different sort of projects that are in sort of work in conjunction with Meshery. So the service mesh performance enables us to sort of compare and sort of standardize, between various service meshes. And I'll just also give you a very quick look into how that sort of works. Then we are also having some other advanced applications such as the filter hub and also get nighthawk that sort of allow us to do more advanced analysis and also provide some inbuilt intelligence for better configuration management, traffic load management with the help of Meshery. So you can find all of these different projects. Specifically, Meshery itself and service mesh performance are currently incubated in the CNCF Landscape. And you can definitely check out them on github.com/layer5. You'll be able to find all of these different projects as well. Now, let's deep dive a little more into the Meshery architecture. So essentially, the Meshery architecture is sort of divided into, or you can sort of think about it as in three ways, right? There are essentially, so the best possible way to sort of talk about the entire architecture would be to sort of divide it into three different things, right? So essentially, you can think of the architecture as Meshery, and then you have a certain set of components that will be attached to Meshery. So first of all, there are some components that we should be aware of. So there is the Meshery server, which is built on top of Golang. It supports the gRPC, GraphQL, and then we have a different set of Meshery adapters, which will be coming on to in a bit. Then we have the Meshery UI that is essentially helping us to interact in case of with the help of a UI, which will be also introducing. Then we also have something known as providers, which basically are sort of an extension, and we are provided with two different types of providers. Either you can use your local provider or you can use your remote provider, which are some of the remote services that we have provided. Now, in terms of just understanding how the entire infrastructure sort of works, Meshery, essentially what it does is that it will help to deploy a set of containers. So these containers that are provided by Meshery can be either deployed to Docker or Kubernetes. And the Meshery components connect to one another with the help of gRPC requests. And the Meshery server sort of stores the location of all the other components and then helps you to connect with these components as and when required. And typically, whenever there is a connection, let's say from a service, from a Meshery server to a Meshery adapter, it is initiated with the help of a client request that is with the help of the Meshery UI that helps to basically gather the information and invoke any kind of a operation that we need to do. So over here, as you can see, that we initiate any kind of a communication with the help of the Meshery client. Now, of course, the clients are possible to do either with the help of the Meshery UI that has been built on React and TypeScript, or you can use the Meshery CTL, which is a command line tool, or you can use some in-house scripts. And essentially, as we have discussed, that you're able to communicate between various services with the help of gRPC requests, where your Meshery is sort of this base server. And we also provide a lot of additional functionality, such as performance monitoring with the help of Prometheus Grafana. So you can set up both of these to monitor the performance. We'll be also talking about that in a bit. Now, sort of going back to one of the previous slides that we want to cover, and that sort of is basically regarding the extensible basically this entire architecture regarding how we are sort of talking about the extensible mesh manager, right? So let's consider this as in a way that, as we discussed, right, that Meshery will support, let's say, two different types of providers, whether it's the local or the remote. Now essentially what we are looking at over here is that basically you have on the side of the meshery where you have your UI, you are able to determine your mesh patterns. Then there would be certain environments that will be setting up. Of course, that would include your service mesh, that would include what type of operator that you're using. Then in, let's say, if you want to set up some infrastructure such as Prometheus and Grafana. And of course, you can also set up your Kubernetes as well. You can connect to Kubernetes by providing a kube config file that you might be having locally in your system. So moving back to the infrastructure, right? Very quickly going over some other important points that are talking about the sort of the object model, right? So that diagram that I just showed you in the previous slide sort of outlines how Meshery is having its relationship with other components inside of this entire environment, right? And of course, with respect to we also have Meshery operator that essentially is a multi-service mesh operator that helps to manage mesh sync. And those are some of the most important concepts regarding the Meshery architecture. That sort of brings us to the most important point that we are now going to be talking about is the Meshery adapter. So as we have described, right, that with Meshery, you can connect multiple service meshes at the same time. So Meshery allows for multiple service meshes to be connected with the help of Meshery. So various service meshes that can be connected with the help of Meshery, and it allows us for support for various adapters, right? And we have support for a lot of different adapters, right? And that includes some of the most commonly used service meshes. That includes things like service mesh for Linkerd, Kuma, then of course Consul itself. And essentially what adapters allow us to do is that they allow us to interface with these different service meshes. And of course, not every service mesh is the same, right? There are certain versions, or there are certain functionalities that are provided with each service mesh. And over here, you can see the adapters that we have currently supported alongside, whether they are in a stable release or they are in a beta release. So with the Consul, it's in a service, it's in a stable release at this point of time. And just understanding how these adapters sort of work. So essentially, as we mentioned that each Meshery adapter will have some very specific use cases and functionalities that are provided for that specific service mesh. And usually at the time of whenever we are deploying, the service adapter will essentially register all the specific functionalities and the service mesh capabilities that will be provided with the help of the Meshery server capability register. And that way you will be able to use those specific capabilities to be able to play around with that specific service mesh and then configure it according to your own needs. And that sort of brings us finally to the Meshery adapter for HashiCorp, right? So we have created an adapter for Consul. Now, again, we know that how sort of HashiCorp Consul works. It sort of works at the data plane, right? Sort of at the control plane. So essentially, the way you can think of it is that HashiCorp Consul provides us like a client that we can see over here in this architecture, that essentially, if you have your data plane and your control plane, your HashiCorp Console is acting on the control plane, and you can set up some proxies such as like an Envoy sidecar in your data plane, and help to sort of go and connect between the different services with the help of the proxy, Envoy proxy, while the console agent will help with the discoverability and the configuration management and checking all of the the traffic, whether it's been put up correctly or not. So that is what is the main power of console, right? So offers the networking to connect with the data plane, right? And that's where Meshery comes into picture, right? Where Meshery will provide lifecycle and performance and also configuration management for HashiCorp Consul. So at this moment, we support version 1.8.4 for the console service mesh. The adapter version at this point of time is version 0.5.2. And of course, like some of the we have already discussed some of these features. So we can go over some of these features in more detail. So the first one is that we allow for provisioning of being able to run some sample applications using the adapter. So some of them include HTTP bin, book info, and image hub. So basically, image hub is a application that allows us to explore WebAssembly modules used as envoy filters. And this was actually presented at DockerCon 2020, where we had showcased an image hub a sample application running on console. And of course, we also provide performance management of console with inbuilt integration with Prometheus and Grafana. So essentially, that allows us to connect the Meshery adapter for console to the Prometheus or Grafana that will run in the control plane, and it will help us to sort of monitor the requests with the help of Prometheus and Grafana. So if you are like sort of looking to load test your service mesh, this integration will actually be quite helpful. And of course, like before we end this, I'll also now like to show some like a working demo. So I'll quickly just open up my screen to quickly showcase the working demo as well. Let me just quickly share my screen, and I'll just share my screen again. Just give me 1 second. All right. I think we are good to go. All right. So I'll quickly jump into the meshery.io. This is the official Meshery website. Now, what we'll go is we'll go directly into the docs for meshery.io, and we'll go to the adapters, and we'll go specifically to console. Right. Now, I'll also quickly give you a demo of how the Meshery UI sort of looks like. If you want to install Meshery, it's super simple. You just have to go ahead and over here, if I get started, you can select the platform of your choice, whether you're on Mac OS, whether you're on Windows, or using some custom Kubernetes distributions as a Minikube, or even K3D. It will work on all of these different, and it's just a certain 2 or 3 steps that you have to follow, and you're good to go. Once you have successfully installed Meshery, as I mentioned, that it will have a lot of different services running. So you can go to localhost 9. I'll just quickly go ahead and go to localhost 9081, which is basically the dashboard for Meshery. Over here, you can see that basically we can set up a service mesh. I can connect to Kubernetes. Over here, you can see a lot of the inbuilt adapters that we have. So if you want to sort of let's say set up a connection with one of these service meshes, let's say if I want to do it with console, you just have to click on it, and as you can see, I was able to successfully connect with it. Over here, I also can see service meshes. I can connect specifically to console, and if I connect to it, as you can see, I'm able to successfully make a connection with my console. And if I now go specifically to as you can see over here, we have different things such as lifecycle management, we have configuration management, we have service mesh performance. So we'll go directly first to the lifecycle management for console. Over here, you can see that we have all of these 4 different options for whether you want to let's say deploy a service mesh to let's say your own Kubernetes cluster, or you want to deploy a sample application, or you want to validate whether the configuration for your service mesh is actually adhering to best practices. All of that can be handled directly on this service mesh lifecycle. So for example, let's say if I click on the service mesh lifecycle and I click on console, it will just help to deploy the service mesh on the cluster that we are running right now. So as you can see, the operation is running. And I'll also just quickly showcase another useful tool. Let's say if you do not have Meshery running, we also have provided in the documentation this interactive lab powered by Katacoda. Over here, it's again a very simple to go through tutorial where we sort of start off by just initializing Kubernetes, so we can just like open up Kubernetes and actually then go ahead and set up Meshery. And if this is successful, essentially you will be able to see Meshery. As you can see over here, you'll be welcomed by the Meshery UI that I have shown you, that is running locally for me. And then you can connect to a local cluster that you can sort of connect to whichever particular service mesh that you want to do. And if you're able to do that successfully, as the next step, you'll first go to the console. And within the console, we'll be able to connect to console. And over here, we'll just go ahead and click on the install card and connect to console to in order to install the console service mesh and be able to connect it to Meshery. And then of course, since we would require at least some other service mesh that would be working in the data plane, so we'll be able to configure that. And as we successfully do that, we can run some sample applications, including the image hub one that I had described. And what you have to do is that you'll have to click on the manage sample application, and you can select either of these three different sample applications. Let's say we're doing it for image hub application, and as soon as it is deployed, you will be basically able to get some notifications in the notification center that the application has officially it has officially deployed. And once it has officially deployed, then you can sort of then expose and start the sample application. So within the data plane, when you are having basically a sidecar injector that will help to sort of automate the injection of the linkerd, or let's say depending on whichever service mesh, like if you're using Envoy or linkerd, it will help to sort of inject it into the application specs. And what will happen is that once you successfully are able to get this sidecar proxy set up, then you should be able to run these commands. And when you deploy, you will be able to get these sample deployments where you're getting to see what are all the services running and what is their age specifically, for how long they have been running. And you'll be able to run these commands to be able to then run the image hub adapter, and you'll be able to then pull an wasm based image, since these provides WebAssembly based filters, and of course you'll be able to run your application by following all of these different so again, you can go through this entire interactive lab. It's super easy to understand, and it's super easy to set up as well. Of course, Katacoda is a very very powerful tool, and you can definitely go ahead and look at this. Now, another amazing upcoming tool that we have as well is essentially the mesh map. So I'll just quickly go ahead and showcase the mesh map. So essentially what mesh map provides is a UI based functionality where you don't need to write configuration. What you can actually do is you can sort of visually design your configuration or whatever you want to sort of deploy. So based on whatever application that you're building, you can use visual components, UI components, to be able to easily sort of use any service mesh of your choice, and then use these inbuilt UI based tools that will help you to essentially do the same thing that we just did with the help of the Meshery UI, right? And right now it is up for a beta, so you can definitely go ahead and apply for the beta access. And if you're able to get that, basically you'll get a separate section within your Meshery UI where we'll have a mesh map. And with the help of the mesh map, you can select any particular type of let's say first of all, what type of service mesh do you want. Then you can sort of, with the help of this UI, help configure your service mesh and do configuration management, everything, and then actually run it directly from the help of the UI to see whether, the connection to these service mesh is properly done, whether you're able, you're also able to connect to it directly, these sample applications, and help deploy these sample applications directly with the help of the service. So essentially, then, to sort of conclude what we have covered in this time so far is, um, the essentially what we are trying to do with the help of Meshery is be able to provide a platform where you can control and you can manage the workloads, and be able to set up your service mesh configuration really easily. You'll be able to compare between different service meshes as well, for your own use case, to check based on, let's say, the network and the performance of these service meshes, that which one might be the best service mesh for your business use case, right? And that's what makes the Meshery tool so powerful. And of course, with the Consul adapter, like the Meshery adapter for Consul, you're able to manage not only the configuration management, but also you're able to manage or you sort of monitor the performance of your of the Consul service mesh, and that sort of makes it really powerful. So of course, there are a lot of different exciting things that are going to be happening, specifically with the release. As we go on a full scale release with the mesh map, you can easily just use the visual elements to set up, let's say, even with Consul very quickly, and set up some sample applications, or even use your own applications as well. So I'll definitely recommend to sign up for this beta. And again, it is, as we are a completely open source project. The source code for the Meshery adapter for Consul is completely open source. So you can go directly to github.com and go to the Meshery adapter that we have over here for Consul. It's completely open sourced. If you are interested to come contribute to it, you're more than welcome. You can come and contribute to it. If you want to also join our community is on the layer 5 Slack. So we have a really great program for absolute beginners as well. So we even if you are an absolute beginner to cloud computing or to service meshes, or even to HashiCorp, we have a lot of folks from HashiCorp, engineers who are openly contributing to this Meshery adapter. So yes, I mean, whether you're interested in HashiCorp technologies or in Consul, or you're interested in service meshes in general, you can come and join the Slack community forum that we have available for everyone. So yeah, essentially that is what I had to share with everyone. In case you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me as well. And you can connect with me on my Twitter at @howdevelop. Or you can also find me on the layer 5 Slack community. The link for the Slack community is you can just directly join our Slack. So basically, the community is over here. You can join slack.layer5 layer5io.slack.com. So you can join the community. And of course, with that, I would like to conclude my session. In case you have any questions, I'll be monitoring those questions live in the YouTube chat, so you can definitely ask me, or you can of course always connect with me on my Twitter at @howdevelop. I hope that this entire presentation was informative, and you got to learn about Meshery project, and also how we are utilizing the partnership with Consul to help make service meshes better and make them more manageable. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you. And I hope that everyone has a great rest of the Hash Talks. Thank you so much.